Now that you've finished your annotated bibliography, you're going to be starting on your proposing an argument paper. You're going to be looking at the sources you've chosen in your annotated bibliography and deciding how to use them in your paper. We integrate sources by using quotations, paraphrases, or summaries. When you want to add a source into your paper, you're going to think, how can I write anything that's, original, that someone's never written before? But technically what you're doing, because you are a secondary source, meaning you're not conducting your own research, but you're an original source in that the way that you pulled information together, the sources you've chosen to quote, paraphrase, or summarize are going to be different than any other essay that is out there. And so in that sense, you do have an original paper, even though you're technically a secondary source. Sources lend the authoritative voice to your paper. So you want to think, in what way when I introduce the source, am I complicating what they've said? How am I extending their claim? How am I interpreting how this source and the information they cited relates to my thesis? You can use a source as evidence for your claim. A source may provide data. You will also use this source as evidence, integrating the relevant passages into your own argument and explaining how it's significant to your thesis. How does it support the reason you've proposed? You can also use sources to introduce the counterclaim. Don't leave out sources that disagree with you. You want to use sources that disagree with you and then show how your position is still relevant despite the conflicts you may have with this particular source. It shows to the reader that you can respond to arguments that are not your own and that you understand the full context of the situation. You may want to use a quote when you want to discuss the actual language of a text. Let's say an essay proposes a definition that you disagree with. Then you may want to quote that actual language so that then you can explain to the reader or the audience why you disagree with it. Maybe you're discussing an author's position or theory, and you want to be sure that the wording is very careful so that you're not accused of misinterpreting the author's argument. You may want to quote when you risk losing the essence of the author's ideas in the translation from her words to your own. You want to make sure that you keep those intact. When you want to appeal to the authority of the author and use his or her words to emphasize that authority, you can also use a quote then. You want to summarize, and summaries still require an in-text citation at the end, but you want to summarize when you want to sort of give an overview, a shortened overview of the argument overall that someone is trying to make. You can summarize passages. You can summarize entire essays. Finally, paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is one of the most difficult aspects of using a source. You still want to do an in-text citation for your paraphrase. When you paraphrase, it means literally similar phrasing. So it should be very close in length to the original, and it should have all the important information in there. So choosing when to paraphrase something, I would say if you're citing something that is in steps, or it's a process, it's a story that you're retelling, or some sort of anecdote, that's when you would choose to paraphrase. Tips for paraphrasing. Read, understand, and then from memory, try to rewrite the section. Don't look at the original as you write, and try changing the order of the original information. There's nothing that says you have to introduce the information in the exact same order as the original. And oftentimes that's one of the easiest ways to change the information and put it in your own words, is to reorganize the flow of the information. Don't simply substitute synonyms. So make sure that when you are choosing a source to put in your paper, or when you use a quote, that you know exactly why you're using it and how you're going to use it. Are you going to quote it? Are you going to summarize? Or are you going to paraphrase from it? And why are you including it in that section? What is it doing there? What is it providing? Is it providing evidence? Is it complicating the position? Is it introducing a counterclaim? Or are you appealing to authority? You're showing how someone else agrees with the same position you've taken.